$420 million, made in 18 years, starting from a shared cubicle with a monitor too close to his face. Not the strategy, not the network, not the timing. 7 specific levels of financial power. Most humans never cross level 3. The level that silently wrecks you arrives at 1 billion. Meet Adam, 22 years old, $48,000 a year salary, a cubicle with bad fluorescent light. Start climbing. Rewind 16 years. You're 22, sitting in a shared cubicle, monitor too close, fluorescent lights flickering over a spreadsheet. You send an email to your manager asking for a 10-minute meeting. 3 days go by. No response. You send another. You rewrite the subject line 4 times before you click send. It's still ignored. You ask a coworker if this is normal. She laughs. You're not senior enough to get on his calendar yet. This is what zero power feels like. Not poverty, invisibility. You have ideas. You have time. You have competence. None of it has leverage. None of it makes anybody do anything differently. You learn something quietly in that cubicle that will take years to articulate. Power isn't about what you own. It's about whether your words land. You start reading, not self-help, actual books about how decisions move, how capital actually works, how one person can bend a room and another can't. Here's the first rule you learn. At zero power, your time is infinitely available and somebody else's time is infinitely scarce. That asymmetry is the definition of being at the bottom. The fix isn't working harder. Working harder means selling more of your infinite time to someone else's scarce decisions. The fix is building something that compounds while you sleep. Something small. One skill the market actually values. One asset that earns without you. One relationship with a person who has already crossed the line you're trying to cross. You don't feel rich yet. You're not, but you stop buying lottery tickets because you finally understand you weren't lacking luck. You were lacking leverage. Then a Tuesday, 18 months into studying, you build a small consulting practice on weekends. 6 clients, $300 a month. You're in a cafe reading an industry report when you notice something specific. An obvious mistake 4 big companies are all making. You write a 5-page memo that night. Clearest thing you've ever written. You send it to a name you found on LinkedIn, a partner at a firm 3 tiers above where you work. You spend 2 hours drafting the subject line. You hit send at 11:46 p.m. You cannot sleep. At 6:51 a.m., you wake up to a reply that says 2 words. Monday, 10. This is the moment your life forks. Not because of the meeting, because of what the meeting proves. Your words can land. You just needed to aim them at someone listening. Within 6 months, you leave the day job. The consulting practice grows to $8,000 a month. You're 24. For the first time, somebody listens when you speak because they are paying you for exactly that. This is level 1 of financial power. One skill, narrowly aimed at the one audience that can deploy it. You don't feel powerful. The power lives in the fact that you can say no to a client for the first time without losing sleep. No, without explaining. No, because now somebody else is waiting. That word is new in your mouth. It tastes different than anything you've said before. Here is the second rule. Power at level 1 is the ability to turn down work. Nothing else qualifies. 2 years later, you've saved $300,000. You make your first capital move. Buy into a small business you've been studying for 18 months. You don't buy to own it. You buy to fix it. 6 months of work. A new operator. Your money becomes a salary for somebody else. This is level 2. Capital deployed is influence. Not because of what the money buys, but because of what it moves. Another person's attention. Another person's time. Another person's priorities. You realize money at this level isn't a prize. It's a tool that rearranges the priorities of whoever is closest to it. You also realize most people who have money at this level don't understand this. They still think it's for buying things. They buy boats. You buy silence. For years in, your net worth crosses 2 million, but the net worth is a side effect. The real transformation is this. For the first time, when you walk into a room, the people who already have power notice you, not because of money, because of pattern recognition. You pass a threshold where your decisions about where to deploy capital become signals that others read and follow. Another operator copies your strategy. A junior partner at a firm calls to ask your read on a category. A newsletter writer quotes you without attribution. You are no longer invisible. You are also no longer anonymous. Both things happen on the same morning, in the same week, and you notice the trade. You've given up the freedom of not being watched. In exchange, your decision started to ripple. At 8 million, the math changes again. You stop making deals where your time is the main input. You start making deals where your judgment is the input and other people's time is the execution. You hire a small team. 3 people at first, then 7. Your day becomes allocating attention. Which of the 6 conversations you had today deserves follow-up? Which 3 are noise? Which single email to write before midnight? So that 3 things happen tomorrow without you. The third rule arrives quietly. At this level, assets buy each other. One acquisition funds the due diligence on the next. A small holding company position becomes a sourcing network for a bigger deal. You've stopped trading time for money. You've stopped trading money for money. You've started trading decisions for positions and positions for outcomes. 28 million. The phone rings differently now. A partner at a private equity firm you've never met asks if you want to co-invest on a platform acquisition. You're 34. 2 years ago, your emails would have sat in this person's inbox for weeks. Now he's calling you at 10 on a Tuesday morning. Here's the 5th rule. Above 10 million. Reputation becomes a financial instrument. It earns dividends independent of your decisions. You say yes to his pitch, but also notice something he proposes inside the deal. He adjusts. He adjusts without pushing back, without negotiating, without even blinking. That's the dividend. His default assumption changed from get what I want to calibrate to what you want. That calibration is worth more than the dollars in the deal itself, and you both know it. By the time you cross 100 million, the game stops being about accumulating assets. It becomes about owning the layer other people rent, a logistics corridor, a software platform, a distribution network, a licensing framework, something with a gate that takes a small cut of every transaction passing through it. This is level 6. Not rich, powerful. When you own infrastructure, you don't work. The infrastructure works. And people who use it owe you a small, invisible tax on their success that compounds into your balance sheet while you sleep. You stop counting net worth in dollars. You start counting it in what fraction of which industry moves through a system I own. The people who pay attention to you at this level are no longer operators. They're owners of other platforms, asking whether their edges touch yours and what it would take to make them connect. At 1 billion, power stops being about money. You've had money for years. What's new is reach. A sitting regulator calls to ask your view on a rule before it's published. A senator's staff routes a briefing through one of your foundations. A central bank economist includes a footnote your team wrote in a white paper. You do not lobby. You advise. The distinction matters to you. Maybe it should matter more. Here is the 6th rule. Above 1 billion, your questions become policy. Not because you demand it, because the people who write the policy are genuinely uncertain, and your pattern recognition is priced above the free market ability to test any alternative. You are positioned at the top of an information pyramid. You didn't build the pyramid. You just found the vacuum at the top and filled it. 3 in the morning. Private study. The bookshelves hold books most of your friends will never read, on subjects most of your friends will never need to understand. You try to explain what you do now to the people who knew you before. You can't, not because they wouldn't get it, because the vocabulary doesn't translate. Your old friends ask how the family is. You ask how the family is. The conversations stay in that corridor. Everything that actually absorbs your attention, regulatory positioning, dynasty trust, secondaries, the precise shape of a carve-out you're negotiating Wednesday, sits on the other side of the language barrier nobody crossed with you. You are not lonely. You have 4 people at your altitude. You can call at any hour. You are isolated in a different way. Your context is untranslatable. And the people who knew you before you became untranslatable, they keep asking about the family. They don't know what else to ask. A company you're invested in decides to restructure. 140 people lose their jobs. You know the CFO. You've had dinner with him twice. You don't call him. You review the cap table. You hold. The company's margin profile improves. Your position increases by $11 million on paper. You do not feel good. You do not feel bad. You feel the distance. That's the weight of large decisions. Not guilt, not triumph. Just the accurate understanding that something real happened far from you because something you signed made it possible. You cannot afford to feel every decision. You also cannot afford to feel nothing. You are 42. Your net worth is $420 million. The exact figure is known to 4 people. You sometimes think about the 22-year-old at the cubicle. That's a version of you who had everything you now spend to protect. The certainty that your email not being answered mattered. The belief that power was something that sat in a single room you'd eventually walk into. None of that is true anymore. Power is not a room. It's a gradient. And the only reason you reach this part of the gradient is because every level between here and the cubicle costs you something specific. At 0, it costs your time. At 10 million, it costs your anonymity. At 100 million, it costs your ability to have conversations without somebody in the room calculating the angle. At a billion, it costs language itself. None of it is a loss you regret. All of it is a trade you made with your eyes open. Somewhere right now, there's a 22-year-old rewriting an email subject line for the 4th time, watching the send button for too long, wondering why nobody on the other end is answering. They think this is about status, about being invited into a room, about being seen. It's not. It's about understanding that the email itself isn't the asset. The email is just a symptom of not having one yet. Once they understand what the actual asset is, the thing that makes the email land, the entire staircase opens up. The staircase was always there. They just couldn't see it from the floor. 7 levels of financial power. Adam started at level 1 in a shared cubicle at 22. You are at a specific level right now. Name the number. Level 1, trading time for wages. Level 2, building skill leverage. Level 3, owning assets. Level 4, owning businesses. Level 5, owning position. Level 6, owning reach. Level 7, owning the rules. Which level are you on tonight? Be honest. Comment the number. I read every single one. The monitor on your desk right now is where Adam started. The staircase opens tomorrow morning.